Hello everyone, this is Lee Hoy and let's get shooting with Olympus. Today I'm going to share with you reason number 3 why I'm glad I made the switch to Olympus. I've been looking a lot online and seeing a lot of forums, Facebook groups, and other social media arenas where a lot of folks have some complaints about the Olympus menu system. It is extensive, there are a lot of options, but for me, I find the organization of it very straightforward and intuitive. And today, I'm going to share with you some of the things about the menu that you may or may not be aware of to help you navigate it a little easier and help you understand what Olympus was thinking when they laid it out. Because it's in a very organized, structural manner, even if at first glance it may not seem that way to you. So let's jump over to the computer and I'm going to show you the menu online. Okay, let's dive right into the Olympus menu. The particular camera that we're looking at here today is the Olympus OM-D E-M1x, while I also have the Olympus OM-D E-M1 Mark II and the new Mark III. Today we're just using the EM1X. That's the camera I tend to shoot the most. And while there are a few differences, most of the menus are very similar. They function similar. The main menus are the same. So having said that, let's go ahead and dive into the Olympus menu system and its structure. So on the far left, you can see here as I'm cycling through, these are the main menu items, okay? And the way you cycle through is using the directional pad on the rear of the camera. If you will, there is a up and down, left and right, or north, south, east, west, however, whatever helps you remember the easiest. And that directional pad, if I want to cycle through the main menus, I would press down. And if I go all the way through, it'll just start back up at the top. Or I can press up and go in the reverse. If I want to get to the more detailed menu items on the right, I would press right on the directional dial. And if I wanted to enter one of these menu items, I would press OK. So you'll see at the bottom, if I press back, it actually takes me out of the menu and back to my regular screen. So we want to press menu again to get back in the menu. And if I press OK, it will then take me deeper into that particular menu item. Again, I can press OK and go into a menu item. There you go. Now if I press back, if I press menu, it will take me back to the main menu page. And then I can left press on the directional dial to return to the main menu icons. Up at the very top of the screen, you'll see where it says Shooting Menu 1. This is the name of this particular menu page. And that name will change both as we cycle through the main menu on the left, and once we get to a setting that has more than one page, you'll see that it changes as we cycle through submenus. So in the custom menu, you can see then there are even submenus to that page. And we can cycle through with the directional dial. We can go to the right with the directional dial. We can press OK to go into one of the menu items. And then we can press the menu button on the lower left of the camera and work our way back to the main menu. Now let's talk about the layout and the structure of the main menu, because here is where I see a lot of folks either confused or find it difficult. But in reality, the menu has been laid out very intuitively and as logically as possible. There are always some menu items that just don't have a good place to fit, but I really feel like Olympus has done a good job of placing those with other items that make sense. So this is Shooting Menu 1. And these are some of the key features that you'll want to have set. A lot of these you don't have to change, and we're not going to walk through every menu item today. That's not the purpose of today's today's video. The purpose of today's video is to tell you reason number 3 why I'm glad I made the switch. And the reason I'm glad I made the switch from full frame to Olympus is that this menu is extensive. It has a lot more features than my full frame system I was shooting before. It is laid out much better than any. I have a Sony a7 III and the menus are laid out horribly, very difficult to find items. And frankly, the Olympus just has way more features in the menu than either Canon or Sony, which is what I've shot in the past. So the shooting menu number 1, You'll set your picture mode, whether you're going to shoot in RAW or whether you're shooting in JPEG, your image aspect, different things like that, your drive mode. So these are some of the key photography related, not video, we'll see video in a minute, menu items. Shooting menu number 2. And in the menu, if you see a grayed out item, that means for whatever reason, that option is not currently available. So depending on the modes or other functions that you have enabled on your camera, that sometimes disables other features. But this is shooting menu number 2, and this menu seems to highlight what I would call some of the more unique or special features on the Olympus OM-D system. For example, bracketing, which includes exposure bracketing, white balance bracketing, focus bracketing, HDR, multiple exposures, keystone compensation, like if you're using the 8mm fisheye lens. If you want to enable silent or anti-shock modes, high resolution mode, and live neutral density filter shooting. So the shooting menu number 2 are some of the unique special features that you find, many of these only on the Olympus OM-D system. So the third main menu is the video menu. So if you're never going to shoot video, you really don't even have to mess with or change any of the settings in this menu. Okay. The fourth menu down is the playback. This is for reviewing your images. If you want to make sure that if you shoot a vertical image, regardless of the way you're holding your camera, that it would show it in a vertical mode, you could change that here. If you want to connect to Wi-Fi. So this is playback. If I want to share images through Wi-Fi, if I want to protect images, this is where I'm going to do it in the playback menu. The next menu is really the most extensive, hence the name custom menu. This is the area where we can fine-tune a lot of the features found on the Olympus OM-D system. You really need to spend some time getting familiar with the various items on these pages, because as you can see, the submenu on the custom menu is extensive. It goes all the way from A1, and different letters are going to represent different things, which we will talk about in a minute, and it goes all the way down to J3. So there are a lot of items, as you can see, in the menus here. And I think it's the extensiveness of the Olympus menu that really throws a lot of people. But I'm going to walk you through these specific pages and look at the heading at the top of the screen to try to help you understand how Olympus laid them out and why I think it's intuitive and helpful. For example, A1, A stands for autofocus. There are 4 submenus, A1, A2, A3, and A4. And if you look at the right, autofocus mode, whether or not you want autofocus plus manual focus enabled. If you're going to set up back button focus, your autofocus scanner. Again, we go to A2, we'll see set your home autofocus point. Target mode settings. Do you want your orientation link? Do you want your autofocus points to remain the same where you put them if you're shooting vertical or horizontal? Do you want your autofocus illuminator on? Do you want face priority on? A4, you see, do you want the manual focus clutch enabled or disabled, or operative or inoperative is the word they use. Reset lens, we're going to talk about this little feature, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because I don't like having that on, and I'm going to do a specific video on why you should or should not set that to on or off. So A stands for autofocus. Now B stands for buttons, dials, and levers. B is where we are going to customize what our buttons, our dial, our directional pad, our FN lever, what that does when we push or move or spin. Here's where we're going to customize B1 and B2, okay? So there's a lot of customization that goes in just in B1 and B2. Now let's go to C. And here's where the letter may not make quite as much sense, because this is dealing with release, your low and high drive mode settings, and your image stabilization. And there are 2 pages for this, And yes, C doesn't really stand for any of those specific functions. But again, not every letter. Sometimes letters already taken that would work. So that's what they've tried to do. D is for display. And there are 4 submenu pages here. Here's where we're going to change a lot of the features or settings that show up when we're looking through the viewfinder, when we're looking on the rear LCD screen, when we're looking in or at the back of the camera. It's also where we can live view boost and increase the brightness of our viewfinder. It's also where you're going to find your grid settings, focus peaking, your histogram. And then this is where you can turn off the annoying beep with autofocus. The little symbol throws some people, they might think it's for Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, but I will talk about that as well in another video. So D4 is the final page there on the display menu. E, this makes a lot of sense. Exposure. We're going to deal with our exposure value steps or increments. We can talk about ISO auto, low ISO processing. We can talk about live bulb, live time, composite settings, metering. This all has to do with exposure. So E1 through E3 makes a lot of sense, and it's very intuitive on that one. Just like F. F is for flash. I can set my high shutter sync speed, my flash white balance, exposure compensation, the slowest shutter speed I can use with flash. So F stands for flash. Now G, you can think of gamma for color. So here's a lot of the settings that are going to influence colors. Color space. If I'm shooting under fluorescent lights, do I want my white balance to stay warm? So what white balance am I currently shooting? So G you might think of as gamma for color. H again doesn't really fit specifically. This has to do with record and erase settings. So when I am reviewing my images or looking at them on the camera, or when it's recording images, these are the settings that would impact it. For example, do I want to customize the file name in camera? Do I want to go ahead and set some copyright settings in camera? Do I want to do a quick erase? So H stands for record and erase. And all of those, when we're reviewing or recording images, are placed together. I is close. I is for electronic viewfinder. When I am looking through the electronic viewfinder in the camera, here are all the settings that would impact that. So, electronic eye, we're close. It almost makes sense. But again, E is already taken for exposure. J is our utility, and this is the final submenu within the custom menu. And here are what you'll find are kind of functions that didn't really have a home on any other menu. So the level adjust, if you want to map pixels, your battery settings, how long you want the LCD to stay backlit, if you want a quick sleep mode. This is where you'll find the GPS and the field sensor logger. So these are all functions that kind of just found themselves without a home and got put under utility, which again makes sense for me. I know those unique one-offs, this is where I would come find them. Okay, so I push the directional dial left to get back to my main menu, and we're going to leave the custom menu and go to the setup menu. Card setup, this is where you would format or erase your memory card, your SD card. This is where you can set the time. Your record view, after you take an image, do you want it to automatically show up or not? A hint, you don't want that on. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth settings for connecting to a smartphone or your computer. And finally is a My Menu. This is where you can customize and place often used menu items so that you don't have to go look through them through all the other menus. You can put them on the pages you like. You have up to 5 custom submenus that you can set up for yourself. So you can see overall, I think the menu's been laid out very logically and orderly, and I think the letters do give you a lot of clues as logistically possible as Olympus could. And so hopefully that little introduction to the menu and why I'm glad I made the switch. I find this menu easy to use. Yes, it is extensive, but that means my camera will do a lot. So I hope that you'll take this information and rewatch it and learn your menu on your Olympus cameras. Thanks, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, so that's the menu. We've had a chance to look at the different layouts, how they organized it, trying to work with the letters of the alphabet. We've had a chance to walk through them, see what each one does, and even how to customize your own menu. I hope that today's video has helped you organize your menu, get to understand your Olympus menu, and learn to make even more great images with your Olympus gear. If you've enjoyed this video, I hope you'll click the like and subscribe button, and that will encourage me to shoot more videos about Olympus gear, Olympus techniques, and Olympus tricks. You can also learn more at my website, www.tourbigbend.com. I'd love for you to follow me on Facebook or Instagram too to see I throw up a lot of images and information there as well. So until next time, I hope you guys get out there and don't forget to get shooting with Olympus.